It's Sophie for Together We Are Mondays. Finally again. Yeah, we did have some confusion and some chaos, but we're trying to get it all straight now because there's certain people who kind of left the team without telling us, I guess. So we were kind of waiting for them to respond, and now we're all regrouped and ready to go. So this week's topic was chosen by Anago Empath, and it's whether we believe that the addiction model is kind of an appropriate way to talk about eating disorders, and whether, well, yeah, whether it's just, I guess, valid. And I think it is in a way. I think you would have to make some alterations to it because there is something different about eating disorders, I find. So just to explain it, like the addiction model is kind of like a, I don't know, circle, or you can have it as a diagram or however you want. That kind of explains why you maintain a disease basically, or why you maintain an addiction. And it kind of includes the physiological part, so that there is some kind of physical addiction, like let it be drugs. Then you have the drug that you're taking that causes you to have some physical reaction that you desire. And then there's the psychological effects, so the need to have it maybe for coping or for relaxation or whatever it is that you might need it for, but that you do. And that would lead you to choose that drug over and over again, kind of. And eating disorders, I think, work very similarly, but a little bit different, because there is not, yeah, I mean, there are theories that actually there's a physical addiction to starving, but as far as I know, you don't actually get into that state unless you are severely malnourished. So this is talking month going with very little food. And something leads you to maintain your behavior in the very beginning. So I think that's different. It's not like you take, like for example, heroin, you take a drug once and then you can feel the physical effect and you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, I want it again. And then you keep doing it over and over, and within maybe 2 weeks you're deep down in that addiction and you are already physically addicted, and there is basically your psyche is giving up because you can feel that the physical addiction is so strong. I think that's kind of what happens, whereas with an eating disorder, it's sort of, you don't really notice that you're actually addicted to anything. And it's not actually a physical addiction. I mean, it's not even, people say it's a behavior addiction, but I wouldn't even call it that. I think basically you just utilize your eating disorder mindset and behaviors to cope with something else. So in a way it's addicting, yeah, but what is actually addictive is the problem you have, because it forces you to deal with it over and over, and because that's too much to deal with for you, that's why you choose to have this eating disorder, or that's why you get it. And then it feels like an addiction once you're in it, because you are so used to those behaviors that it's more a psychological than a physical addiction, I would say. Because once you're over that point where you can actually see that there is not really a physical addiction, and you will be okay when you eat, and there is not anything that's going to happen. Like once you're over this block in your head, that's when recovery really takes place. So yeah, I guess you can use it in a way, because you kind of have a drug, but it's not an actual tangible one. And it's more the psychological effect that leads you to do your behaviors over and over and over again, because you haven't developed any better strategy. And the farther you get into your illness, the more afraid you become to actually try something else, more or less. And you feel like if you don't continue your behaviors, something really horrible will happen, which most of the time includes weight gain. So that's kind of where also a different factor comes in, because you're afraid to go back, whereas most people who have an addiction to a substance would like nothing more in this world than to leave their addiction, because they can actually see all of the disadvantages of it, whereas with an eating disorder it's harder. It's way harder to really be able to identify the negative influences that it has onto your life. Yeah. So the question of the week was certain character traits, perfectionism, passivity, anxiety, addictive personality, etc., associated with an increased risk for developing an ED. What ED predisposal character traits do you have? Okay, so perfectionism, yes. Passivity, in a way. Anxiety, yes. Addictive personality, no. So, I am terribly perfectionist, like to the point of obsessiveness, like which all stems from from a deep down, profound fear of failure. Like that's where the anxiety comes into play as well. I am so scared of failure. Like for me, everything that is not perfect is failure. Everything that can be like, it can be the stupidest thing. It's failure. Like not being able to, I don't know, put my socks where they belong. For me, ruins the whole wardrobe as a whole, you know? Like for me, then this wardrobe is something kind of, I don't know, it's ugly and it's tainted and it's dirty and it's contaminated. I don't know, because there's just one thing that's not perfect. And I feel the same way about pretty much everything. Like I can't do schoolwork. If there's a word misspelled, I have to correct it in a way that you can't notice. Because as soon as you start, like if you see any mistakes, it's not perfect anymore. I have to write the whole thing again. And well, that's the way I am with myself and with my body as well. So there's just, you can't possibly be perfect. I know that, like rationally I understand, but I still think, I don't know, deep down that there is such a thing as perfectionism. And different people seem to epitomize it. And it's just, I don't know, I find it really difficult to deal with, just those perfect people out there. And then it's me, who will never be. I mean, I'm not even able to keep my closet all neat, I guess, neat and tidy. So, yeah, I'm a horrible perfectionist. And anxiety, evidently every situation that confronts me with failure, which is, remember, everything, causes major anxiety. Like, that's just how it is. I can't go, well, I always come from ballet on Mondays, right? So, I'm not good whatsoever. There's many people who are just better than me, many girls. And I can't deal with that. I feel crappy all the time, and I become so anxious during that lesson that I'm actually not able to concentrate whatsoever. I fall down, I do different things, like I'm just not even able to follow my teacher anymore. Like she may say, Sophie, do a tendu, which is like stretching your leg to the front basically, and I'm not able to actually process that information because I'm so, oh my gosh, what if I put the wrong leg forward now? You know, like major anxiety. And there was one more that I wanted to say something about. Oh, passivity, yeah. I am passive because I am so lamed by that fear of failure. I mean, it's just, I can't do anything without having a risk to not do it perfectly. I know that I will never. That's the point. So I cannot, like, it's too scary for me to put myself out there and maybe, I don't know, lose, you know, not be loved anymore and not be accepted anymore and not being wanted anymore in this world. And there's nothing that I fear more than that. And this failing of a social being, like this waste of brain mass and this waste of body mass, is just something I do not want to be confronted with. So I just, avoid any possible situation that could confront me with my fear. And that's pretty much every situation, because everything can be perfect, so I always fail, so there's always failure, so whatever I do I can fail. And I do fail. That's the kind of the thing. So I just feel bad after, and that's why I do even less, and then I feel even worse because I'm a failure as a social being, and then I do even less, and then I'm even failing, doing my household chores, and then I'm even more of a failure because I'm not a proper house cleaner, and I don't know. And then at some point I always stop sleeping, and then I even fail to sleep, and that's always the point when I know, okay, this is really bad now, Sophie. It's this horrible mindset. It's so ridiculous. Like, I'm even laughing right now because I realize how, like, it's such nuisance. Literally, there's nothing true about it, and there's nothing that will get you anywhere in life. It's not true, and I know it's not, but I don't know, I just can't get over it. It's horrible. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents. And I wish all of you all the best, and I hope that probably by laying it out, probably a lot of you actually know this kind of thinking, and know that it's perfectly false. It's absolutely perfectly false. And so just don't ever start thinking like that. It doesn't make sense. And I realize that your ED kind of feels like an addiction, and that it's perfectly fine to seek help for it, just like for every other addiction. Like, there's nothing more embarrassing about having an ED than it is about having burnout or having, I don't know, being addicted to alcohol or whatever. It's, I mean, it's an illness. What are you supposed to do? Well, so lots of love, and see you next week. Bye.